Although, although slavery worldwide uh, had not been fully abolished by modern colonial governments by the time Darwin wrote his work, I think it's worth remembering that Darwin worked on his theory of evolution for 20 years before publishing in 1871, which means he actually began his studies in the neighborhood of 1850. Clearly, by 1871, chattel slavery was abolished in the United States of America, as well as the Americas in general. Therefore, his work cannot be attributed to the enslavement of Negroes between the 15th to the 19th century, as many people try to push that point. His theory of evolution created as much a schism in the church as had Galileo's theory of the universe. Darwin was very familiar with the discovery of the Neanderthal man at Neander in Germany. So keep that in your mind when you think about racism. One must wonder, though, what Darwin would think had he lived to read the 1997 study regarding the mapping of Neanderthal man's DNA code by Schmidt and archaeologist Jürgen Thyssen. Certainly, Darwin was fully aware of the kidnapping and enslavement of the Negro. However, like many controversial beliefs, ideas, and theories developed in the minds of men and women of all races, the Bible was the center of the universe as it deemed the European master of all. Darwin, much like Galileo, was caught between two religions, white supremacy and God was white. Whether one believes in Darwin's theory in whole or in part, or the still contested out of Africa theory of modern humans, or the multiple regional modern human theory, what is true, even today, is that the doctrine of the Bible has to be true to justify white supremacy. The same fear buffers their arrogance today as the debates rage on about whether a so-called Negro woman is the mother of all humankind or whether a British woman is the mother of all white Europeans. The more I think about us, the more hope finds its niche in that corner of my heart, a rather appropriate place to hide until the walking dead fucking wake up. How many know that Charles Darwin was taught taxidermy by his mentor, a so-called free Negro born in Guyana, who being both teacher and friend remains a shadow on a bookshelf in the back of the storage room nearest the dimliest lit corner without so much as a Dewey Decimal number for reference. This man who taught Darwin taxidermy is named John Edmonstone. He was highly influential in Charles Darwin's decision to study and catalog species in the rainforests of South America. For the record, with respect to our theory of evolution, two terms are tossed around that are very different. So let's just clear that right now. A hominid refers to all great apes and their ancestors. Are we great apes? No. A hominin refers to the group consisting of modern humans, extinct human species, and all our immediate ancestors, including members of the genera Homo, Australopithecus, Paranthropus, and Ardipithecus. Our dear Lucy of Kenya was eventually classified as a 3.2 million year old Australopithecus afarensis, one of humankind's earliest ancestors. Lucia of South America has been classified as being somewhere in the neighborhood of 12,000 years old, and she is somewhere between a Negroid of afarensis, i.e. Africa, and Australopithecus, i.e. Australia, Papua New Guinea, etc. Now, the slave trade for the so-called Negro in America was not actually taught in school when I went there. But I do recall from the age of about 11 attending churches and masjids and mosques and kingdom halls, and on and off throughout my 15 years on this earth. I never had a problem with the out of Africa theory. I learned about the out of Africa theory in junior high school, although it was called, of course, the theory of evolution. But again, I had no problem with the alternate concept of the creation of humanity. In truth, who really cared? Whether you believed in God or you believed in science, whether you thought God was, whether you thought science made more sense, wasn't that just a call for you to make? I mean, after all, what are we doing to make ourselves better humans? After centuries of religious wars, commercial avarice, economic disenfranchisement, and maybe most importantly, why we feel no urgency to honor the earth and be good stewards. If the multi-regional hominin theory were proven beyond all doubt, a few questions still remain, right? How do so-called Negroes prove indigenous American birthright? How does having this affirmed change our standing in America and particularly in the world? I came across a few Negro runaway notices and Negroes for sale and all that other kind of stuff. And one of them was talking about Igbo captives off the Windward Coast. So if Igbo captives could be passed off and sold, as the advertisement, I use that word loosely, as the advertisement read or reads, likely Negroes, okay? 10 likely Negroes. Won't we argue about that just as we do whether Moses looked like an Egyptian? Maybe it is really time to let go of these endless chicken or egg protestations. My point is, we can have all the knowledge in the world, and we pretty much do. It's at our fingertips. You can find out anything you want to find out. It is, again, a question of whether or not you believe the sources or you accept the explanations that are given to you. There are many words for the same word. That means there are synonyms for the same word. At some point in time, we have to get it in our heads that all this knowledge we have about the theory of evolution, about the multi-regional theory of evolution, all of this information is intellectual masturbation. That's all it is. It's great to know. It's great to be able to have the understanding of it. But who are you as a person? You can argue back and forth whether or not it's right to say Lucia was an American. You can argue all day long. Point is, that's where they found her. Now, I don't see how it makes any sense for modern scholars or whatever to say that Lucia had to have come from Southeast Asia or Asia, and she had to be from somewhere around Australia in order for them to accept the fact that she crossed the Bering Strait and went all the way down there when she could have just gone from Africa. They could have gotten on dugout boats and just intending to go one place ended up somewhere else and got stuck. And that's why they found her there. Maybe the others went on ahead and continued walking from the south, walking further north, and got to the end and crossed over. Who knows? The point is, it makes much more sense that she drifted or they drifted on some kind of a dugout boat from Africa to Brazil rather than that they came from Australia, crossed whatever that is, all the way up through Asia to the Bering Strait and then crossed over this land bridge after the ice melted? I mean, maybe someone's trying to put some years into the whole story, but it seems to me, whether you're walking from Brazil and taking some kind of vessel in between these islands and you're, jumping from one place to another, it's still going to take you a lot of time. It's still going to take you many, 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 many years, decades, centuries to walk from Brazil to the friggin' United States of America. I mean, dang, I don't get it. But we just keep going round and round and round about the whole thing like it's supposed to mean something. In the grand scheme of things, again, that's that term, that the nuns used to use when I was in school. In the grand scheme of things. Well, in the grand scheme of things, what really does it matter? It's something to research. It is interesting information. Hell, I've created so many Google Maps, I've traveled all over the world mentally. That's fun. It does make me a better person. It broadens my perspective. It broadens my scope. I can see the possibilities. Broaden your perspective. See the possibilities.